Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sprint 216 review. This was a normal 2-week sprint. Let's get started. I'll start with the overview, Jeffrey on the UI, Adam on providers, and Joe on the platform. As you can see, this sprint was a relatively normal sprint with 49 PRs merged. And that was 20 enhancements, 15 bugs, and a smattering of the rest. And over to Jeffrey with the UI.
Hey, good morning. And the sprint 12 PRs got merged into the UI Classic repo, and I can explain about them in the following slides. As you can see from the screenshots of the order services page, when the select box options were too big, its top portion goes underneath the header, which hides the search section. A simple CSS fix had solved this problem. Next slide. The Ansible repository refresh button was disabled on the summary page. Gilbert had fixed this by adding an on-when clause to the button helper. Next slide. The request refresh button does not actually refresh the contents of the page, and this was due to the wrong partial file was being replaced after its action, and Gilbert had fixed this. Next slide. Gilbert fixed the workflow repository specs that was failing due to some authentication permission errors. Next slide. This was a follow-up of another PR to fix minor alignment issues in our data tables. Next slide. Gilbert added refresh page buttons to cloud infrastructure virtual machines and the virtual machine summary pages. Next slide. David added the toolbar and edit tag buttons to the embedded workflows show list and show pages, matching the Ansible playbook pages. Next slide. David added the credentials page to the embedded workflows menu. This includes the summary and list pages, and it also includes the toolbars for add, edit, delete buttons. Next slide. Jason added the settings prototype for workflows and workflow repository controllers. Next slide. Gilbert had fixed broken workflow repository pages and toolbar buttons and add, edit repository pages. Next slide. Akhil converted the reconfigure form from Angular to React. Next slide. That's all from UI side. Over to Adam.
Thanks, Jeffrey. For core this sprint, Nasser fixed an issue where user-initiated targeted refreshes of VMs and templates was failing due to the association not being the proper VMs or MIQ templates, since these two particular models actually inherit from a parent model, which is VMs and templates. The association wasn't being built correctly, and that was causing user-initiated targeted refreshes to fail. And so we got that fixed up. For Amazon, we automatically updated the list of instance types. For IBM Cloud, Jay fixed an issue with new volumes that are requested to be created during the Power VS provision workflow. They were being created but not attached, since that was a separate API call. Out of that, we also found an issue where prepare provisioning was being called twice based on how the Power VS specifically had set up their state machine. And so we were able to delete some code, inherit the code from core, and get that issue fixed up. Next slide. For Power VC, the Power team added an event catcher for the Power VC provider. They limited it specifically to Ceilometer, since that's what is present in Power VC. There technically is also AMQP/RabbitMQ, but they weren't able to test that in time, and so they only are exposing Ceilometer for now. For OpenStack, LJ fixed some incorrect constants that was blocking his Zeitwerk PRs. And for workflows, we fixed an issue with credential types not being able to be queried via the API. And we also finished up a long open PR, which is to move the step execution into the flow gem, which opens up a lot of options for us in terms of being able to run this, run multiple workflows at a time in a standalone worker. And in the flow gem, we switched from using the kubectl binary to using the kubeclient Ruby gem, which is just a much better way of interfacing with the Kubernetes API from Ruby code. And that is it for providers. Over to Jim.
Okay, thanks, Adam. For platform enhancements, Jay separated the role access restrictions for catalog items so the permissions could be more granular. Next, Sudhir added the ManageIQ status information to Podified with information on the conditions, versions, and ingress endpoint. Keenan added time-based purging for Vim performance state for older records. Then Jason locked the minimum Rails version to 6.174 to fix a CVE. Next, Keenan added performance improvement through pre-caching metric rollup values, and he has some follow-up PRs that'll be coming in the next sprint. Keenan removed another reference to the complicated or not highly performing put or update, and this time it was in the user unlock queue. Keenan also added specs for Vim performance states, and Adam added Podman as a dependency for ManageIQ appliance. Next slide, please. For platform bugs, Adam fixed an issue where build credential types was returning workflows for embedded Ansible credential types. For RPM build, Brandon reset the yarn RC and set the yarn version to 1.22.18 if the platform is S390X. I bumped the appliance console to take advantage of a fix for the IPA certmonger principal name fix. And Jason made appliance build work with older JSON gems, such as the one that's with Ruby 2.7 by using the backward compatible JSON load instead of a load file. Next slide.
And that's it for the Sprint 216 review. Our next review, Sprint 217, will be on July 26th at the usual place and time. And as always, I'd like to thank all the presenters today, all the contributors, and the ManageIQ community. Thanks, everyone.